I'm with Todd Schultz at the Landing. It's a bait and tackle shop here on Little Green Lake. And Todd, I understand that you do some business with John. You guys kind of work back and forth.
Yep, John has the restaurant and the motel, and then I have the bait, and I also rent boats and do some guiding and stuff on the lake.
Okay. You also rent ice shacks also?
Ice shacks during the winter, sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So from what I've seen of your store, it's kind of a one-stop shop. You've got beer in there, the bait, the tackle, everything you need.
We got a little bit of everything for you.
All right. Hope to see you in the water.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Todd.
I'd mentioned before that the lake is 468 acres. So Little Green is not a huge lake that's very intimidating. Right now we're sitting in one of the 5 bays of the lake. That's the biggest asset of this lake. No matter if you get blowing off big water, you can always come out here and fish and get out of the wind. The lake is basically a mean of maybe 20 feet deep, and the bays run at about 7 feet. All the bays have great weed growth to hold fish, so it makes it pretty easy to target them. We also have a lot of rocky shorelines that is perfect for casting muskies and for casting walleyes. And for recreation wise, the middle of the lake, it's about a mile across. It's about a half a mile wide. So it's big enough for skiing and tubing. Right now, like we had said before, it's March, so our game fishing is closed. The first week in March, fishing for northerns and walleyes and bass closes. But the pan fishing obviously is really good. We have a huge class of perch right now that are just a little bit too small to keep. They're about 7 inches, so in another year they're really gonna start pounding out here. And we do get a lot of fishing pressure. That's one thing that some people complain about, but our lake reproduces fish so well that it's almost better that we have people out here keeping fish, because otherwise the fish had stunted in the past, and we've had problems with that. Right now, if pan fishing isn't your thing, the Fox River Run has started, and they're catching lots and lots of walleyes. It's about a half hour from here. Some spots, 20 minutes. And coming up, our fishing season opens the first weekend in May. First weekend of May is pretty much slower for panfish at that time, but you'll see a lot of musky fish and a lot of walleye fishermen casting crankbaits. As the weather warms up and we start to get more and more green weeds, about Mother's Day weekend is when the crappie fishing really turns on. That's just about the end of their spawn. And about 2 weeks after that is when the bluegills move into spawn. And that's probably our biggest asset. We have so many panfish in the lake. It's a great place to bring a kid, because in the summertime it's an every cast panfish lake. And right about the end of May is when the walleye start moving into the weeds, and it's a 40 to 50 fish walleye lake a night. But we catch a lot of little ones, but it's easy to get a limit every night. Summertime is a little slower. The fish move out into the lake basin, which is about 28 feet deep. So you do a lot of drift fishing in the summertime. And then fall rolls around and all the fish start moving back into the shallow bays. Musky fishing is our probably biggest asset in the fall. A lot of 45 to 50-inch muskies get caught on this little lake in the fall. First ice is right around the corner then. First ice is Little Green's known for all over for catching huge northerns and a lot of walleyes in the first ice. Today we're fishing very shallow water. We're right on a rock point that comes out to about 4 foot of water. We're on the edge of that in about 5 feet. The water clarity is almost crystal clear. You can actually, if you look down the hole, you can see your jig all the way to the bottom. You can watch the fish come right in. So it's very critical that you use very light tackle. Today I'm using 1 pound trilene. The fish are biting very light. It's a necessity to have a spring bobber. We're using a marmuska jig tipped with a white spike. Spring bobber is very important. It's for people that don't know, on the end of your pole, it's basically a 2-inch spring, and when the fish hits it, obviously the spring moves. But it's such a light bite. If you just had a regular jig rod, you would not know that you had a bite. We're using a marmuska jig, which I'll show you a little bit later, and I'm using a Frable rod. And actually Frable this year makes a rod with a spring bobber that's actually tied right into, or fused right into the end of the pole, so it makes it a lot easier for the people. Another nice bluegill here. The reason we have such clear water too is we had a problem with invasive weeds at one time, and our lake association is working very, very hard on getting them out of the lake. We also have a filtration system in the lake, and basically it's a pump that we have in 20 foot of water that we run in the summertime. So when we used to get the terrible algae blooms, it's kind of taking that out of it. And now in the wintertime, our water is clear all winter long. About end of June, when the weeds start dying off, then we get a little bit of an algae bloom, but it's really changed. And another thing about these bluegills, they're very spooky. Like I was saying earlier with the light tackle, it's very imperative that you don't use a power auger when you're fishing for these fish this time of year. We're fishing so shallow. If you have to use a power auger, I would recommend going out maybe 2 to 3 hours before you fish to drill your holes.
I'm using my Lowrance today, and it's a lot different than a flasher, your typical Vexlar or Markham. As you can see, the jig marks as a straight line, and it drops down here. You can see it the whole way, and you even have a delay, so that if you do have fish come in and you're not looking at the unit, you can see if there was a fish there within the last 10 seconds. And then it marks down here, you can see the bottom is the yellow, and then I've got these green lines and yellow and blue coming through, and that's weeds that are up about a half a foot off the bottom. And usually where there's weeds, there should be bluegills.
John and Matt, I'd like to thank both of you for hosting us. It's been a rough time getting here between the camera problems and the weather issues, but at the end of the day, I think we had a good show. Today we spent a couple hours on the ice, got a nice mess of bluegills, so thank you very much. John, if you could give us your contact information.
Our number is 920-398-2113, and if you come up, we'll do our best to put you on fish.
And if you missed any of the contact information, don't worry, we'll have that again at the end of the show. You can also find us on the web at www.marshcreekoutdoors.com. Until next time, enjoy what the Creator's given you, and we'll see you in the outdoors.